Have you ever wanted to add a little fairy tale charm to your daily life? Or to create that perfect focal piece to elevate that fairy tale themed party you've been planning? I know I have. And if that sounds like you, keep watching to find out how. Or if bringing fairy tales to life really isn't your thing, then sit back, relax, and enjoy this whimsical tale. There was once an old castle in the middle of a large and thick forest, and in it an old woman who was a witch dwelt all alone. In the daytime, she changed herself into a cat or a screech owl, but in the evening she took her proper shape again as a human being. She could lure wild beasts and birds to her, and then she killed and boiled and roasted them. If anyone came within 100 paces of the castle, he was obliged to stand still and could not stir from the place until she bade him be free. But whenever an innocent maiden came within the circle, she changed her into a bird and shut her up in a wickerwork cage and carried the cage into a room in the castle. She had about 7,000 cages of rare birds in the castle. Now there was once a maiden who was called Jorinda, who was fairer than all other girls. She and a handsome youth named Joringel had promised to marry each other. They were still in the days of betrothal, and their greatest happiness was being together. One day, in order that they might be able to talk together in quiet, they went for a walk in the forest. "Take care," said Joringel, "that you do not go too near the castle." It was a beautiful evening. The sun shone brightly between the trunks of the trees into the dark green of the forest, and the turtle doves sang mournfully upon the young boughs of the birch trees. Jorinda wept now and then. She sat down in the sunshine and was sorrowful. Joringel was sorrowful too. They were as sad as if they were about to die. Then they looked around them and were quite at a loss, for they did not know by which way they should go home. The sun was still half above the mountain and half set. Joringel looked through the bushes and saw the old walls of the castle close at hand. He was horror-stricken and filled with deadly fear. Jorinda was singing. "My little bird with the necklace red sings sorrow, sorrow, sorrow. He sings that the dove must soon be dead. Sings sorrow, jug, jug, jug." Joringel looked for Jorinda. She was changed into a nightingale and sang jug, jug, jug. A screech owl with glowing eyes flew 3 times round about her, and 3 times cried, "To-hoo, to-hoo, to-hoo." Joringel could not move. He stood there like a stone and could neither weep nor speak nor move hand or foot. The sun had now set. The owl flew into the thicket, and directly afterwards there came out of it a crooked old woman, yellow and lean, with large red eyes and a hooked nose, the point of which reached to her chin. She muttered to herself, caught the nightingale, and took it away in her hand. Joringel could neither speak nor move from the spot. The nightingale was gone. At last the woman came back and said in a hollow voice, "Greetings, Zachael. If the moon shines on the cage, Zachael, let him loose at once." Then Joringel was freed. He fell on his knees before the woman and begged that she would give him back his Jorinda. But she said that he should never have her again, and went away. He called, he wept, he lamented, but all in vain. Ah, what is to become of me? Now that I've got your attention, let's start our flower arrangements. I searched far and wide across the lands to find the perfect bird cages for this arrangement. This birdcage had the perfect shape, but was too bright for such a dark story, but that was easily fixed with some acrylic paint. I chose the shade Burnt Umber to give the cage an older, more antique appearance. All it took was a couple layers of paint and it was perfect. And I think it's worth mentioning, all of these bird cages were found at antique stores for $15 or less. What a deal, right? Now we can begin processing our flowers, and as always, the flowers used in this video will be listed below. I started by separating my greenery into manageable pieces and putting them into their own container. Here I am using an Italian ruscus, which I prefer, and also a nagi, which I tried for the first time but wouldn't recommend because of the intense smell. In my opinion, it wouldn't be a fairy tale arrangement without amaranthus. This is known as explosion grass, and I thought it had the perfect whimsical touch. When processing flowers, it's important to remove any dead foliage or any excess foliage that may come in contact with water, and also to give the ends a good snip to ensure proper hydration. These white astrantia were so delicate yet eerie at the same time, really giving off a witchy vibe. To me, flower arranging is not just putting together pretty flowers, it's about capturing the mood of the story you're trying to tell. The star of this story is the blood red rose. Be sure to remove the outer guard petals before using roses in your arrangements. I thought these scabiosaupods would be a unique addition to my arrangement, and they go great with the fairy tale theme. When I first saw these campanula, I thought they were so lovely and would be the perfect representation of the fair maidens in the story. And lastly, I chose Queen Anne's lace for its whimsical qualities. Now that the flowers are all processed, let's start arranging them on the bird cages. I began by weaving my greenery directly onto the bird cages until I got the look I was going for. My plan for this arrangement was to add a diagonal line of greenery across the front of the bird cages, and then I would add clusters of flowers to sections of the greenery to act as the focal points. For this arrangement, I chose hardy greens that could go a couple of hours without direct access to water. If you are planning for your arrangement to last more than a day, I would advise adding a water source to the ends of your greens. I started adding my flowers to each of the main focal points on my arrangement. To ensure balance, I added one of each flower to every focal point and then added more from there. For the delicate flowers, I used a plastic flower vial to ensure a water source. Just make sure they are securely hidden out of view. As a side note, ever since I read this story, I can't get the Sing Sweet Nightingale song out of my head from Cinderella. Cinderella was also written by the brothers Grimm, and I can't help but think that when Disney added this song, it was a subtle reference to this story. I replicated the previous steps on the next two bird cages. And as I did with the last bird cage, I continued to check that the flowers were well balanced in each arrangement. With my leftover flowers, I made smaller arrangements to complement the final design. I tried to emphasize the loose organic placement with this arrangement. I imagined it being the herbs our witch from the story would use to cook up her wild beasts and birds. As a magical touch, I created birds out of the protea flower and the explosion grass. I then formed the little claws out of some rustic vine wire I had left over from another project. It turned out so cute. Now it's time to assemble all the pieces of your arrangements into the final display. I'm going to save mine as a surprise, so if you want to see how it turned out, stick around until the end of the video. Joringel went away and at last came to a strange village. There he kept sheep for a long time. He often walked round and round the castle, but not too near it. At last he dreamt one night that he found a blood-red flower, in the middle of which was a beautiful large pearl, that he picked the flower and went with it to the castle, and that everything he touched with the flower was freed from enchantment. He also dreamt that by means of it he recovered his Jorinda. In the morning, when he awoke, he began to seek over hill and dale if he could find such a flower. He sought until the 9th day, and then, early in the morning, he found the blood-red flower. In the middle of it there was a large dewdrop, as big as the finest pearl. Day and night he journeyed with the flower to the castle. When he was within 100 paces of it, he was not held fast, but walked on to the door. Joringel was full of joy. He touched the door with the flower, and it sprang open. He walked in through the courtyard and listened for the sound of the birds. At last he heard it. He went on and found the room from which it came, and there the witch was feeding the birds in the 7,000 cages. When she saw Joringel, she was angry, very angry, and scolded and spat poison and gall at him, but she could not come within 2 paces of him. He did not take any notice of her, but went and looked at the cages with the birds. But there were many hundred nightingales. How was he to find his Jorinda again? Just then he saw the old woman quietly take away a cage with a bird in it and go towards the door. Swiftly he sprang towards her, touched the cage with the flower, and also the old woman. She could now no longer bewitch anyone, and Jorinda was standing there, clasping him round the neck, and she was as beautiful as ever. Thank you so much for following along. I hope you enjoyed this fairy tale adventure as much as I did, and I also hope I inspired you to bring your very own fairy tale to life. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe for more.